Throughout history, the practice of consanguineous marriage and reproduction, particularly among royal families and isolated communities, has had significant genetic and social consequences. This academic exploration examines notable historical cases where close relative marriages impact family lines, health outcomes, and dynastic succession, from the Habsburgs of Europe to ancient Egyptian pharaohs. These examples illustrate important scientific and sociological lessons about genetic diversity and population health. Starting with number 20, Niles Leakey. Following the death of his wife Alina in 1532, Leakey pursued a relationship with her sister Lucy. Despite being a widower, contemporary religious law considers such a union incestuous. In an attempt to circumvent these restrictions, Leakey sought to have his marriage annulled, a strategy that would prove fatally miscalculated. The situation escalated when Lucy became pregnant. This development particularly enraged Leakey's brother-in-law, a prominent nobleman whose influence helped bring the matter to ecclesiastical attention. The case eventually reached the archbishop, leading to Leakey's arrest and trial in 1535. The court's verdict reflected the severity with which medieval Norwegian society viewed such transgressions. Leakey was sentenced to death by smoke inhalation, a punishment that demonstrated the period's harsh approach to those who defied religious and social order. This case provides a stark illustration of how medieval Norwegian society enforced its moral and religious codes, while also highlighting the complex intersection of family relations, law, and social status in 16th century Scandinavia. Number 19. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, renowned for revolutionizing our understanding of natural selection through On the Origin of Species, also provided an unintentional case study in heredity through his own family life. His marriage to his first cousin Emma Wedgwood in 1839 reflected common practices among Victorian England's upper classes, though it would later become a source of scientific insight and personal concern. The Darwin household welcomed 10 children, but their family story illustrates the potential genetic implications of consanguineous marriages. 3 children died in childhood. Among the 7 who reached adulthood, 3 were unable to have children of their own. Darwin, applying his scientific mindset to his personal life, maintained careful records of his family's health patterns. His research on plant breeding had showed him the potential drawbacks of inbreeding, leading him to worry that his marriage to Emma might have affected their children's health. His concerns stemmed from his growing understanding of heredity, demonstrating how his personal life intersected with his scientific work. Modern genetic studies of the Darwin-Wedgwood family tree have supported Darwin's suspicions. Analysis of 4 generations revealed multiple instances of marriages between relatives on both sides. These genetic patterns likely contributed to the health challenges observed in Darwin's children, validating his early insights into hereditary patterns. This family history serves as a poignant example of how Darwin's scientific principles extended beyond his professional research into his personal understanding of family health and genetic inheritance. Number 18. King Tut. Recent scientific analysis has provided remarkable insights into the life and health of Egypt's young pharaoh, Tutankhamun. The 1922 discovery of his tomb by Howard Carter revealed extraordinary artifacts, but modern technology has now helped to uncover the biological legacy of ancient Egyptian royal practices. A comprehensive virtual autopsy involving over 2,000 computer scans of Tutankhamun's mummy has revealed previously unknown physical characteristics. The analysis showed several congenital conditions, including an atypical skeletal structure with distinctive hip formation, dental malocclusion, and a foot deformity. These findings have transformed our understanding of the historical figure beyond the idealized artistic depictions. DNA analysis have provided evidence that Tutankhamun's parents were siblings, reflecting the Egyptian royal family's practice of consanguineous marriage to maintain dynastic succession. This genetic background appears to have contributed to several medical conditions, including temporal lobe epilepsy, increased susceptibility to malaria, and Kohler's disease, which affected his bone development. Following established royal tradition, Tutankhamun married his half-sister Ankhesenamun. Historical records indicate they had 2 daughters who did not survive infancy. This pattern of health challenges appears consistent with what modern genetics has revealed about close relation marriages over multiple generations. This case provides valuable insights into both ancient Egyptian royal customs and the biological implications of consanguineous marriage practices in historical contexts. This scientific evidence has helped transform our understanding of one of history's most famous rulers, revealing how dynastic practices impacted royal health and succession in ancient Egypt. Number 17. Alexi Romanov. Alexi Romanov's struggle with hemophilia, inherited through Queen Victoria's bloodline, had far-reaching implications for Russian history. This genetic condition, which prevents blood from clotting properly, manifested severely in the young heir to the Russian throne, causing frequent life-threatening bleeding episodes that greatly concerned his parents, Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra. The desperate search for treatment led to the imperial family to place their trust in Grigory Rasputin, whose apparent ability to help Alexei during bleeding episodes granted him unprecedented influence at court. While the nature of his treatments remained debated by historians, his growing power and controversial reputation created significant tensions within Russian society. The Tsarina's reliance on Rasputin, driven by maternal concern for her son's health, inadvertently contribute to public perception issues facing the monarchy. This medical crisis coincided with a period of mounting social and political tension in Russia. The royal family's increasing isolation, partly due to their focus on Alexei's health management, may have distanced them from the changing needs and expectations of their subjects. While the Russian Revolution of 1917 stemmed from multiple complex factors, including social inequality, war fatigue, and political dissatisfaction, the situation surrounding Alexei's illness and Rasputin's influence added another layer of complexity to the pivotal period in Russian history. The story of Alexi Romanov demonstrates how inherited health conditions within royal families could have implications extending far beyond medical concerns, potentially influencing political stability and social dynamics. This case provides a unique lens through which to examine the intersection of hereditary disease, royal succession, and political history in the early 20th century Europe. Number 16. Princess Nahienaena of Hawaii. In early 19th century Hawaii, Princess Nahienaena's life embodied the complex cultural transitions occurring as traditional Hawaiian practices encountered Western Christian influences. Born into the royal family as the daughter of King Kamehameha's highest-ranking wife, Keapolani, Nahienaena received a Christian upbringing from her mother, while traditional Hawaiian chiefs maintained their customary practices. The cultural tensions of this period manifested dramatically in Nahienaena's personal life. Hawaiian royal tradition permitted and sometimes encouraged marriages between siblings to maintain bloodlines, a practice that stood in direct opposition to Christian teachings. In 1834, when Nahienaena followed a royal custom by marrying her brother, she faced intense disapproval from the Christian community and converted Hawaiians, leading to her social isolation. Seeking reconciliation with the Christian community, Nahienaena later married Lealehoku, son of Chief Kalani Moku. In 1835, however, the situation grew more complex when she became pregnant and her brother claimed paternity of the child. This led to the renewed social ostracism during her pregnancy. The tragic deaths of both her infant daughter and Nahienaena herself shortly after marked a poignant end to her life. Nahienaena's story illustrates the profound challenges faced by Hawaiian royalty during this period of cultural transformation. Her experience reflects broader historical themes about the intersection of traditional practices and introduced religious beliefs, highlighting how individuals navigating competing cultural expectations in early 19th century Hawaii. Number 15. Barbara Daly Baekeland. Barbara Daly Baekeland's life was a tragic tale that unfolded behind the glossy pages of Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. Born in 1922, she was a glamorous American socialite who seemed to have everything: wealth, beauty, and fame. Yet beneath the surface, she struggled with severe mental instability. Her marriage to Brooks was marked by excessive partying, infidelity, and emotional turmoil. Eventually, Brooks could no longer tolerate Barbara's erratic behavior and multiple suicide attempts, leading to a divorce. Their son, Anthony, went to live with Barbara. Sadly, Anthony inherited his mother's mental health issues, including schizophrenia. When Barbara discovered that Anthony was involved with a bisexual man named Jake Cooper, she took extreme, misguided actions. In an attempt to cure him, she hired prostitutes and even manipulated him into an incestuous relationship, hoping it would fix him. But the tragic tale took a darker turn. On November 17, 1972, 25-year-old Anthony, overwhelmed by his struggles, killed his mother with a kitchen knife. When the police arrived, Anthony was eerily calm, casually ordering Chinese food. After serving time in prison, Anthony came close to repeating the violence, almost stabbing his grandmother to death. The Baekeland family story is a haunting reminder of the destructive effects of mental illness, manipulation, and unresolved trauma. Number 14. John and Mackenzie Phillips. The mamas and the papas are often remembered for their harmonious carefree tunes like California Dreamin' and Monday Monday, evoking images of a close-knit group living the free-spirited bohemian life in the 1960s. However, beneath the bright facade of the group's success, a darker story unfolded. John Phillips, the charismatic leader of the band, was admired by many, but his daughter, Mackenzie Phillips, shattered that image in 2009 when she courageously revealed a horrifying truth. In her memoir, High on Arrival, she recounted years of incestuous abuse that began when she was just 19. The abuse started after a drug-fueled night before her wedding, when Mackenzie woke up to find her father sexually assaulting her. This disturbing cycle continued for over a decade, manipulated by drugs and coercion. The relationship ended when Mackenzie became pregnant and feared her father was the father of the child. John Phillips, in an attempt to cover up the abuse, paid for an abortion, and the cycle of abuse came to an end. The revelation sent shockwaves through the world, exposing the hidden darkness behind the public image of the iconic brand. It serves as a stark reminder that even those we admire may harbor unspeakable secrets, and sometimes the truth is more chilling than fiction. Number 13. Thomas Weir and his sister. In 17th century Edinburgh, Thomas Weir and his sister stunned the community with confessions that were both shocking and sinister. Unlike most witches of the time, who practiced their dark arts in secrecy, Major Thomas Weir took the extraordinary step of openly confessing to his dealings with the devil. What made his confessions even more jarring was that Thomas was a respected Presbyterian, often seen dressed in black, which only heightened the shock. He declared without hesitation that he was in league with the devil. At first, the townspeople were skeptical. Surely it was a mistake to prosecute such a respected figure. But things grew darker when Thomas added that he had been involved in an incestuous affair with his sister, and shockingly, she confirmed every detail of his confession. The authorities could not ignore the horrifying truth, and the siblings were quickly convicted. In 1670, they were executed together, sealing their fate in history. The reason behind their bizarre confession remains a mystery to this day, but the haunting legacy of their story lives on. Weir's house is still said to be haunted, a chilling reminder of the dark tale that unfolded in Edinburgh centuries ago. Number 12. Thomas Roode. In 1672, Thomas Roode's crime shocked the British colony that would eventually become Connecticut and led to a groundbreaking legal shift. At the time, there was no law specifically against incest, so when Roode impregnated his daughter Sarah, the colony was forced to address the issue from scratch. Seeking guidance, the governor turned to a group of ministers who decided that incest should be treated as a capital offense. As a result, Thomas Roode became the first and only man in US history to be executed for incest with his daughter. However, the story didn't end there. The following year, Sarah was exonerated when the authorities recognized that her father had assaulted her, clearing her of any wrongdoing. This case not only set a legal precedent, but also emphasized the need for laws to protect victims like Sarah. While it is a dark chapter in history, it had a profound impact on how such crimes were addressed in the future. Number 11. Marion Ira Stout and his sister. Marion Ira Stout and his sister, Sarah Little, became infamous in the 19th century for their dark and twisted involvement in a scandal. Trapped in a tumultuous marriage to Charles Little, a violent womanizing drunk, Sarah found herself in a desperate situation. Things took a sinister turn when she allegedly began an affair with her brother, Marion. Feared that Charles would expose their secret, the siblings concocted a deadly plan to silence him. They lured Charles to a waterfall, where Marion struck him with a mallet, bludgeoning him to death. At first, it seemed like they might escape justice, but their plan unraveled when a piece of Sarah's clothing was discovered near Charles's body the next day. Marion was ultimately convicted for the murder. In 1858, he was hanged for the crime, but the execution was far from smooth. The case remains a chilling reminder of betrayal, murder, and the tragic consequences of a forbidden affair. Number 10. Edward Hogston. Abuse can occur in the most intimate of settings, including within families. The harrowing story of Edward Hogston illustrates this tragic reality, as he not only assaulted his own daughter, but also denied their relationship. From a young age, Harriet endured repeated and horrific abuse at the hands of her father, Edward. This torment led to her becoming pregnant twice, and despite her desperate pleas and overwhelming fear, Edward continued his monstrous behavior. Years later, Harriet summoned the courage to confide in her mother about the abuse. Shocked and horrified, her mother immediately contacted the authorities, leading to a warrant for Edward's arrest. When confronted with the evidence, Edward shamelessly denied that Harriet was his daughter, even going so far as to claim that she had consented to the abuse. However, his lies were swiftly dismantled, and he was ultimately found guilty of his crimes. In 1831, Edward was executed for his heinous acts. His story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of speaking out against abuse and the pursuit of justice. Number 9. Marcus Wesson. The chilling case of Marcus Wesson reveals the depths of human depravity as a father and grandfather who was found guilty of unspeakable crimes. He was convicted of murdering most of his children and grandchildren while also sexually abusing his daughters. Wesson raised his family in a state of isolation, controlling their lives, seizing their money, and even training them to turn against one another. This horrific saga unfolded in Fresno, California, where Wesson held his family captive, subjecting them to relentless abuse and severing their ties to the outside world. The victims, aged between 1 and 25, were discovered dead in their home, each with a gunshot wound to the eye. The grim discovery of their bodies sent shockwaves throughout the community and across the nation. During the trial, the extent of Wesson's cruelty and manipulation was laid bare. He was found guilty of 9 counts of first-degree murder and 14 counts of sexual abuse, including rape and molestation. While his conviction and subsequent sentencing provided a measure of justice for the victims and their families, the scars of this tragedy will likely endure for generations. Number 8. Daniel and Ashley Reinhardt. If you thought that the previous case was shocking, then you're going to want to brace yourself for this one. Daniel Reinhardt concealed a secret so dark that it is almost unimaginable. This is not merely a tale of infidelity, it's a harrowing account of a father's abuse of his own daughter. Reinhardt began his horrific exploitation of his daughter, Ashley, when she was just 5 years old. Disturbingly, his wife was aware of the abuse, but chose to protect her husband instead of their child, threatening the other children to maintain silence. Ashley endured unimaginable suffering, giving birth to 4 children, 3 of whom tragically did not survive. In a callous act, Reinhardt and his wife placed the bodies of these 3 infants in coolers and abandoned them on a farm. The turning point came out when one of Ashley's surviving children found the courage to speak out, ultimately leading to Reinhardt's arrest. Despite his attempts to claim that their relationship was consensual, he was convicted of incest, rape, and other heinous crimes. The Reinhardt case serves as a chilling reminder of the evil that can lurk within families. While it is a difficult story to confront, it is crucial to remember the victims and shed light on the horrifying reality of child abuse. Number 7. Ferdinand I of Austria. Ferdinand I of Austria hailed from a distinguished lineage, being a descendant of Joanna of Castile. His parents, Emperor Franz II and Marie Therese, were double first cousins, a practice common among royal families aimed at preserving the purity of the bloodline. However, Ferdinand's birth was fraught with challenges. He was born with hydrocephaly, or water on the brain, which exerted pressure on his delicate brain tissue and resulted in developmental difficulties. In addition to these challenges, Ferdinand exhibited the characteristic Habsburg jaw and struggled with epilepsy. Despite these obstacles, he was designated as the heir to the throne, ensuring the continuation of the Habsburg dynasty. Throughout his reign, he held titles as King of Hungary, Austria, Bohemia, Lombardy, and Venetia. Due to his disabilities, Ferdinand did not directly oversee state affairs. Instead, these responsibilities were managed by his counselors and regents. He also had a rather eccentric pastime, often found sitting on the open end of a wastepaper basket and rolling around on the floor. Remarkably, Ferdinand reigned for 18 years before abdicating in 1848 in favor of his nephew, Francis Joseph. He lived a long life, passing away at the age of 82. Following his reign, no other Habsburg would be crowned King of Bohemia, marking the end of an era. Number 6. Maria the Mad Queen of Portugal. Queen Maria, often referred to as Maria the Pious, is a compelling figure, though not for the reasons one might initially think. Her profound devotion to her faith served as a glimpse into the mental health challenges stemming from genetic disorders associated with royal inbreeding. Her obsession with her faith was so intense that upon the death of her confessor, she would erupt into violent temper tantrums, screaming about her damnation. These outbursts were far from ordinary, as she would howl and produce strange animal-like sounds. Interestingly, Maria shared a physician with England's infamous King George III, Dr. Francis Willis. He diagnosed her with insanity and subjected her to severe treatments, including ice baths, blistering, and laxatives. From a contemporary viewpoint, it is hardly surprising that these treatments proved ineffective, leaving Maria unable to fulfill her royal responsibilities. Despite the significant impact of inbreeding on her health, the practice persisted. She married her uncle, and their son inherited some of these genetic issues, underscoring the ongoing challenges posed by royal intermarriage. Number 5. Eddie Lee Sexton. Eddie Lee Sexton is a notorious figure infamous for his horrific actions as both a Satanist and a father who took abuse and control to unimaginable extremes. Over the years, he manipulated his children in a cult-like manner, engaging in incest and subjecting them to brutal treatment. Sexton fathered 3 children with 2 of his daughters and coerced them into committing murders to enhance his so-called power. This manipulation culminated in a tragic incident where one of his daughters smothered her own baby, while his son strangled his son-in-law with a rope. Sexton's reign of terror eventually came to an end. After evading capture for a year to escape child abuse charges, he was finally apprehended. His defense attorney infamously described the Sexton family as the most dysfunctional family in America. This case, one of the most disturbing examples of incest ever reported, captured national attention. When the jury recommended the death penalty for Eddie Lee, his response was chillingly indifferent. He simply shrugged and remarked, "That's life." The sheer horror of the situation is almost beyond belief. Number 4. Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria's family tree is a complex tapestry of European royalty from the 19th and 20th centuries. Her daughter, Princess Alice, was a mother of Tsarina Alexandra Romanov, the last Tsarina of Russia. Additionally, she was the grandmother of the final Viceroy of India and the great-grandmother of the Duke of Edinburgh, illustrating how Victoria's bloodlines extended across Europe. However, there's a surprising twist. Victoria's beloved Prince Albert was actually her first cousin, which means that their children were technically products of inbreeding. Compounding this issue, Victoria carried a rare blood clotting disorder known as hemophilia. She passed this condition on to her children, and it continued to impact European royalty for generations. While Victoria herself did not suffer significantly from the disorder, it tragically claimed the life of one of her children and 5 of her grandchildren. Hemophilia is particularly complex, as both parents must carry the recessive gene for it to manifest. Victoria's case was a unique variant known as hemophilia B. There are also whispers that Edward, the Duke of Kent, may have not been her biological father. Given the prominence of this rare disease among her relatives, some speculate that Victoria herself may have been a product of inbreeding. Number 3. Cleopatra. The history of Cleopatra's family is rife with scandal, particularly when it comes to their incestuous relationships. Cleopatra's parents were siblings, and she took this troubling tradition a step further by engaging in a relationship with both of her brothers. Yes, brothers, plural. Such practices were not unusual among Egyptian royalty during that era. Cleopatra even intended to marry her brother Ptolemy XIII to maintain power within the family. However, the dynamics shift dramatically when Ptolemy XIII began to see Cleopatra as a rival and ultimately expelled her. In her quest to regain her position, Cleopatra formed an alliance with Julius Caesar and later married her other brother, Ptolemy XIV. Speculation surrounds her actions, with some suggesting that she may have poisoned him to solidify her rule. To add to the intrigue, Cleopatra also ensured that her sister, Arsinoe IV, who could have threatened her authority, was eliminated. The drama and machinations within Cleopatra's family make for a fascinating and tumultuous chapter in history. Number 2. King Charles II of Spain. For centuries, the Habsburg family was a dominant force in Europe, with their influence extending from 13th century across Austria, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire, an entity that ironically was neither holy, Roman, nor truly an empire. Among their notable descents was Marie Antoinette, the last queen of France. However, the Habsburgs faced significant challenge with inbreeding, which likely contributed to their eventual decline. Remarkably, Joanna of Castile appears a staggering 14 times in their family tree. This inbreeding resulted in a condition known as the Habsburg jaw, characterized by an unusually large jaw and tongue that made basic activities like eating and speaking quite difficult. Charles II, the last Habsburg king of Spain, exemplified the dire consequences of this inbreeding. His jaw was so pronounced that he struggled to eat and speak, often drooling excessively. He didn't walk until the age of 8, and even then, walking was a considerable challenge. Not exactly a candidate for a charm contest. Despite marrying twice, Charles was unable to father any children, likely due to his severe genetic issues. He passed away in 1700 at the young age of 39, leaving no heir and effectively bringing the Habsburg reign in Spain to an end. And at number 1, we have Fred and Rosemary West. Ever heard of the term relationship goals? You might want to rethink that after hearing the story of Fred and Rosemary West, a couple so depraved that they're regarded as one of history's most notorious serial killer duos. These two were not just murderers, they were sadistic predators. Fred, the orchestrator of their horrific acts, had a troubled childhood marked by allegations of incest and abuse. However, such a background hardly excuses his monstrous behavior. He was a brute, and Rosemary, his equally twisted partner, was complicit in his atrocities. Together, they unleashed terror across England for decades, torturing, raping, and murdering young women. They would dismember their victims, bury them in their own home, and even make light of their crimes in conversation with the police. Imagine living in a house where such horrors were taking place just beneath your feet. One of the most chilling aspects of their crimes was the abuse they inflicted on their own daughters. Fred's daughter, Anne-Marie, managed to escape, but his other daughter, Heather, was not as fortunate. She vanished, and when the police apprehended the West, Fred nonchalantly revealed that her body was buried underneath the patio. The West case serves as a horrifying reminder of the depths of human evil. It's a story that is difficult to comprehend, but it's crucial to remember the victims and the families they left behind. If you found these shocking cases as unsettling as we did, remember that history often holds some dark and disturbing stories. The impact of these cases is a reminder of the consequences of extreme inbreeding and incest. It's crucial to understand these events to ensure that such tragedies are never repeated. Share your thoughts on these cases in the comments below. What did you find the most shocking? Alright, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.